I've never done a live one of these. I don't know.
Good morning, everybody. This is Greg Spiro. I'm here with Mornings with Greg. Sorry for the late start. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. I think it might be because the world is just too excited to see the show today that it just broke the entire internet. But we got it all working now, and we have an incredible panel for you today. We have PR experts, some of the best in the industry, and we're coming together to discuss what musicians can do during this crazy COVID economy. The landscape has essentially been flattened for all of us as we're not touring, and touring was the main source of income. And people are experimenting with all sorts of things and tend to be very creative and very confused. And so hopefully we'll be able to shed a little bit of light on this, talk about some new technologies that are being developed, look at what's available now, and just get some thoughts and insights from the experts. So, without further ado, I am going to first unmute everybody. Unmute, 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 and then bring in our panel, which is going to have to be, 1 second. Given the technical difficulties, I need to fix this window to be the right window. There we are. Hey, and there's Matt with your beautiful face. How are you doing, Matt? It's really good to see you. And good. Mark and Anne and Gail and Lydia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. All right, cool. We are live. Sorry about those little technical difficulties and things. But yeah. We're good. Thank you so much for joining us. I had some notes pulled up that I was going to use to introduce each individual here, but those notes are gone right now given the new Zoom meeting I just had to create. So I'm going to open the floor up to each person in the order in which they appear here and have everybody talk a little bit about just briefly who you are and what you do and why you are so amazing, because each of the 5 of you are very amazing, obviously, because you're on my show.
So I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm Matt Merowitz. I founded Fully Altered Media in 2007 while working for DL Media in Philadelphia. And I'm kind of paraphrasing from my own bio, so pardon me. I've become known as one of the more effective social media savvy publicists in the world of jazz and improvised music. Though my firm offers not just album and tour publicity, but also label services, consulting on distribution and streaming, career guidance, social media consulting, and more. And part of my greatest success lies in the longevity of my relationships with people like Vijay Iyer, Myra Melford, Mio Hazama, Linda O, Linda Mahan O, Dave Douglas, and others. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah, whenever it's happened to me several times over the past at least year that I've been doing something in New York, and I was asking some friends, whoever, like, who do I talk to about PR in New York? People tend to center around Matt. His name kept coming up. So I really appreciate you being here, Matt. And I'm sure people will get some good insight from your participation in this. Mark?
Yeah, my name's Mark Rini. My company's called Groove Marketing and Consulting. It was founded in 1991 by Neil Gorov. I joined in 95 and became co-owner along with my business partner, Josh Ellman, in 2000. So this year marks 25 years in the game for us, for me, I should say. And we've been fortunate enough to represent labels such as Blue Note Records, Mack Avenue Records, Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra's Blue Engine Records. And in addition, I also host a weekly radio show on KMHD in Portland, Oregon. It's on hiatus right now because of this mess, but I hope to get back behind the mic real soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark. And we have Anne Braithwaite.
Hi, I've been doing PR for quite a while now, over 30 years, working with people like the Montreal International Jazz Festival, which of course is not happening this summer. It's a big sadness for me, but it is how it has to be. Tons of wonderful individual artists, Wadada Leo Smith, Satoko Fuji, Miguel Zinan, Rajesh Mahanthavan, and so forth. And I do PR, getting the word out. Basically, I see myself as a matchmaker between the artist and the public via the media. So help people get the word out about their great things they're doing.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Anne. And Gail Boyd.
Hi, I've been an entertainment attorney for 40 years. I've been an artist manager now for 30 years. Right now I'm managing John Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra, Lakeisha Benjamin, Don Braden, Michael Olatuja, Scott Tixier, and just recently I started managing a dancer, Jade Solomon Curtis. I also manage Brianna Thomas. So, I've been involved in jazz now for 40 years, and I look forward to this interchange.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gail. And last but certainly not least, Lydia Liebman.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you for having me. My name is Lydia Liebman. I founded Lydia Liebman Promotions about 10 years ago in my dorm room in Emerson, and also over some lunches with Anne. And I work with a bunch of great artists. I work with Spanish Harlem Orchestra, Brian Lynch, Ralph Peterson, Catherine Russell, Tana Alexa, a lot of that she mentioned, Lakeisha Benjamin, Iqbal Tuja, among others. And we also I have an office in London that is handled by Neve White. And we do a lot of social media in addition to our traditional press outreach, a little bit of radio. We basically are, trying to cover all our bases with our artists. And we work not just in traditional jazz, but also in Latin music and in soul and R&B and world music as well. So I'm looking forward to having this discussion and joining all you guys.
And I want to say one thing about, I think we're all mentioning some of our clients. We can't possibly mention all the people we work with or have worked with, and there are so many great ones. So if I missed you, sorry about that.
Apologies.
I get all sorts of angry letters from people like, oh, why didn't you mention that you worked with me? This was opportunity of a lifetime on Greg's show. Yeah, but I really appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you being all more like, obviously, you guys remind me how terrible I look on these mornings because I just wake up and I do these shows with a hoodie on without
great.
showering.
Hey, it's 8 in the morning out there, so you're good. You look great.
Good morning, everybody. Just all the cover my eyes in the morning. Yeah, guys. So this is. I'm really excited to be able to talk with you about this. I know I, as an artist, have been trying to adapt. I started this show. Right. So and it originally was just me playing piano and talking to people. And then I started inviting some people on to discuss topics that were particularly interesting to me. And this is a topic that's particularly interesting to me because I'm in the same boat as thousands and thousands of other artists. And I see people live streaming. I see people, really live streaming. It's like everybody's like live stream, but nobody seems to be. Some people are able to make a little money from it.
Right.
I wonder what you guys. Let's start from the beginning, and say is this the right path? And if not, are there what are the things artists should be thinking about as their first thing right now that touring is done?
Okay, I'll speak up there. Some basic stuff, which isn't about live streaming. I'm going to go a little bit on the practical angle.
Please.
I think artists are eligible for unemployment, and they get an extra $600. I urge everybody that is out of work to apply for unemployment immediately because if you can get it's whatever. It's I think every state's different, but that's one way to just keep money coming in while we're trying to figure out this crazy time. And I know people who are getting both. Part of their normal income plus an extra $600 a week during this time that goes on until July. So that's just a very practical thing that everybody that doesn't have a teaching gig or doesn't have enough income should try to get. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how it's working. Every state's different, but that's one thing. And also all these grants, this is getting off the topic of live streaming, but there are grants out there. People are applying for grants from all sorts of organizations and starting to get them. So that's another thing. It takes a lot of time to do that, but I think just on a practical pay the bills standpoint, That's good. And then the live streaming, there's so many different ways people are doing it. Some people are putting it out there for free as a way to connect to their audience. Some people are raising money for a cause doing it. Some people are taking some money and donating some money to places like Jazz Foundation of America. Some people, there was a really interesting article in London Jazz News about how people are connecting and working with a venue and working with local audiences. I think a lot of, my feeling overall is that people want to support the arts. People want to help the artists. If they know that they need money, they want to help, but you have to find your audience and continue to connect with your audience. And this London Jazz News article was about this guy worked with a venue and put on a concert. It's a lot easier for pianists to do these solo live streams than, different instruments, it can be harder, right? There's Fred Hirsch is doing a tune of the day. Yoko Mi was performing every Friday and Saturday night because she always performed every Friday and Saturday night. And people were started asking her, how do we donate? So there's a donation thing now, and she's giving some of the money. But I'm monopolizing the conversation, but I think there are a lot of ways to do it. One thing I've been thinking about is just like you want to tell your story in general, when you think about what you're presenting to people, think about who you are and find creative ways to tell your story through this crazy time. And one way, I have a friend, Gabriela Martina, who's a singer from Switzerland. She had a huge tour canceled right at the beginning of this, which was going to be a big part of her income this year. She's a grad student at NEC. She thought about, well, the tour was all about her, and I don't work with her, she's just a really good friend of mine. The tour was going to be all about her homeland, her time in Switzerland on the farm she grew up in, and her connection to food. So she was thinking about, what do? I have no income. I have nothing, I'm finishing school, but there's, she was freaking out about gigs. And she thought, well, I love to cook, and it ties in with my upcoming CD project. So she started this series called Dinners with My Neighbor. And she's raised a decent amount of money. So it's a very creative way to think about how do I do this in this time? So anyway, I'm babbling here. You guys, please add some thoughts. I know there are a lot of.
I have a question, and people might have individual answers on this. Like how? I mean, I personally haven't really figured out how to monetize this, and I'm doing it because I'm excited about it. But how much money do you actually see people raising doing these live streams, and how big do you have to be to actually make any money doing a live stream? I can't say. I think some people, it's easier than others. She's not a big name artist. I mean, she's a very talented, amazing artist, but she doesn't have a huge name, but it's going viral. And I think she's going to be getting some press on it now. She's going to be interviewed by WBUR here in Boston about it. And so if it's creative enough, you might get more outreach, but I don't know the numbers, and I haven't asked people the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, to answer your question, Greg, I mean, about live streaming, generally speaking, it's kind of, you have to have a good product, to put it out there. I mean, I just read last night, I don't know if you guys read this, but Facebook is going to allow artists to monetize their live streams. That just got announced, which is kind of amazing. I'm sure they'll take their cut because they're Facebook, but that's pretty huge. I've been, there was a post that went around by Florine, who is a wonderful singer, a Brazilian. Well, she's Dutch, but she sings in Brazilian, or in Portuguese rather. And she made this post that said, we cannot afford as artists to give our music away for free in this time. We have to charge for it, because after this is over, who will ever pay for a performance again if they got it for free for 2 years or whatever this is going to be? I mean, this could very well be, we could be in our houses or not congregating for a very long time, significant number of months or years. So we can't do what we let the recording industry do to us by not being represented by them. That was largely because Napster and the RIAA was all represented really represented major labels and they didn't represent the independents. And so, they passed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and they basically stripped everyone of their right to make any money off the internet, or any substantial amount of money. And then streaming came. So we really have to value, each artist has to value their performance ability and their audience and charge something. I think there has to be a barrier to entry, some kind of thing, so everyone has some skin in the game. Like if you attend a live stream, you gotta pay, I try to pay $5 every time I go. If you can. I mean, if you can't, that's another thing. Lydia promoted a wonderful festival called Live from Our Living Rooms that was not paid necessarily, but you could donate. There was an option to donate, but I think, and a lot of musicians can't, in this situation, can't afford and are tuning in and want to see the content. But like people in my position and who are fortunate to still have work and all this, I think it's very, very important that we really take that lesson that Florine wrote about and others have written about to heart, that we cannot cheapen the value of the music by offering stuff too much for free. There has to be some barrier to entry. That's all I'm going to say.
And I think we need to do some sort of reset, because I think what we're doing now is having musicians go online and it's a virtual tip jar.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's really bad.
We need to think about how we got where we are now. I mean, all of us have been in the business long enough to remember a time when there were record companies that were doing artist development, that were doing publicity and even tour support, whoever heard of that. And now we're at the point where we're all sort of stuck in our living rooms and we're asking our artists to go out and do their artistry and have you give like $5. Well, even if you give $5 to that person, that's not feeding all of the people that they used to be able to pay in terms of sidemen, managers and agents. Managers and agents are being completely left out of the whole conversation. And I think if we can go back and think about, like you said, Matt, before streaming, you had the ability to at least sell some records, and some people somewhere down the line could recoup. Now, because of streaming, there's no ability to recoup. And now we're being asked to perform live for $5, $10, and most of us are doing it for free. So I think we need to take a look as an industry at people like the Spotifys, at people like Apple Music, at people like YouTube, and how are they able to make, in other words, the first quarter of 2020, the record companies got a 13% increase in their income. Why? Because everybody is streaming and the record companies own the masters. And so we need to rethink all of that. I mean, just as an attorney, I wouldn't even know where to start, but I'd love to have a group of us start to think about how do we go back to all of those people and reset so that we're not sort of relegated to our homes and having to play for our supper once again, while at the same time, those industries, Spotify will say, I don't sell music, I sell subscriptions. And we're not part of that finance at all. And I'm really curious to see what you guys think about it. I think it's great because on the other hand, musicians don't just need to work for money, they need to work because they're just meant to entertain and they're meant to perform. And so I like it from that standpoint. I mean, I do think it's necessary for them to get that sort of creative juices flowing and do it. But I don't want to see this become like the new normal. I really want us to go back and try to do a reset, if I can, with those people who are actually still making a lot of money in music. It's just not the artists.
Maria Schneider's a big advocate for, fighting with the big tech companies who are taking all the income from the artists, so much income from the artists, and she's working hard on that all the time. But it's an uphill battle. She's testified in front of Congress and things like that. But I agree, Gail. It's tricky. Some people are performing for free just to stay connected with their audiences, so that when they do go back to perform, whenever that may be, their audiences are there and building their audiences. But that's, some people can
And
do
I
that.
agree with. I mean, because they need to get that up and out.
Right, exactly. But there's one thing I want to
Definitely.
say too. I was talking to a bunch of artists about, how they're doing during this time, and some people aren't feeling very creative. And I think there's a lot of pressure on artists
Yeah.
to put it out there and be creative and get things out there, and no matter what. And I think some people are just kind of shocked by this. It's a horrible time for so many people, and people are dying. Like, may know people that have died. It's not. I want to say to artists, don't feel like you have to create right now. Sometimes the most creative thing to do is to step back and let just deal with your emotions, and then you'll be able to create better in the future. I've talked to a number of people who said, a lot of people are, and some people feel like, well, we have to keep putting content out there, but
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it content? Is it art when you're feeling like you have to put out content? I don't know. Yeah, often it is. Sometimes constraints can make us even more creative, but I just want to say to people, if you're feeling like you don't have it now, don't beat yourself up. There are a lot of other people feeling like that too, and it's, we will get through this, and there will be another side. I don't know how it's going to look yet, but people always need music. People always need art and creativity. So I have great faith in the long run. It's just the short run that everybody's, we've got to get through. And
Yeah.
Well, we're structuring a new landscape, right? We're
Yes.
we're looking at people, whatever we adopt now, and the tools we create are going to be used for after this is all done. And let's just say, like, it's a very bad scenario that, like, the European venues saying they're going to be closed until the end of 2021. So we have 18 months, 2 years, whatever,
right.
of this. The question is and Gail, this is what you were speaking to, is how do we structure this new landscape from the ground up? Because now
Right.
we're building it from the ground up in a way that actually benefits artists. We have the tech companies who have created technologies to distribute music and sell subscriptions, right? They did a great job, and they're worth billions of dollars, and it's great. But the content that they are propped up on is the content that we're all creating. And there have been discussions
Right.
about, I know Louis Marks at Rope-a-Dope Records is discussing creating a sort of unionized technology where artists can distribute their own music and get paid using blockchain technology. But we'd have to all collectively adapt to something like that, right? And so it's a tough question of, do we pivot as an industry and try to go to completely new technology that we collectively own so that the revenues that are going to the tech industry actually come to the artists, or are we trying to fight against those who are already profiting on the creativity and like riding on the backs of the music industry right now?
Yeah, to piggyback, I do want to let Lydia chime in, but really quickly, I'm part of an initiative. I'm doing some pro bono PR for them that is trying to get 1% of all of YouTube's advertising revenue that has been made off music, that's been, especially stuff that's been illegally uploaded or sort of legally uploaded through Safe Harbor, which is the section. If you want to read the law, I highly recommend reading Section 512 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1997. You can go search DMCA Section 512. That outlines what Safe Harbor means. It essentially protects people, individuals, and corporations and whatever from uploading content that is your intellectual property, your music, and protects them not only from not receiving any royalties on it, but also from not receiving any ad dollars from it. And as we all know, all the YouTubers make all their money off advertising. So anyway, that petition I'm working on that petition. It's called Music Workers Alliance. If you go to musicworkersalliance.org and you sign the petition, artists like Charles Lloyd, Nora Jones, a whole bunch of pop artists, people from the Mekons, people from, the band, The Who, different members of the band who play with The Who, and it's being. And so we're looking at that ad content specifically, that ad pool, and we're asking for 1% of that funding to go distributed through all musicians whose music is quote unquote legally uploaded through YouTube, and people are making not only people, but YouTube itself, Google, Alphabet is making money off their backs.
Absolutely.
And that's wrong.
I want to dig into that a tiny bit more just so I can understand, because as an artist, I'm not sure I fully, you seem to know a lot about that specific, the specific legal text that you're referring to. Is that if I have a song that is it if somebody else used it on YouTube that I am...
If someone took your music, put it on top of their video, or just put your cover art, uploaded the music themselves, and whether you're engaged in what's called content ID, and this is something that Maria Schneider has talked about a lot and Mark Rebo has talked about a lot, but if you can get some of the money by registering your music with YouTube when you sign up originally, when you initially distribute your music, like through CD Baby or TuneCore, but you have to do it through YouTube, and you have to opt in to Google's draconian platform, which basically says they can use your music in any way they want forever in perpetuity, and you get this tiny little portion of it that makes it quasi legal. But like, it's the same thing with Apple and with Apple Music and Spotify. Spotify is the worst, and some of these others, but they are able to legally say, well, we are giving you a little bit of money, but it's not enough to be a living wage. And now that musicians are completely incapacitated in terms of live performance, there has to be some emergency fund where all these, literally half of the music streamed on the internet is streamed on YouTube. It's hard to believe because a lot of us use Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and Qobuz and different, spot platforms. But if we look at young kids today, the vast majority of them are listening to their music on YouTube. And so that, like, to answer your question, again, anyone who uploads your music onto another video, onto, an album cover or something else, something that's bootlegged, you are entitled to a portion of that music, that revenue, any revenue generated from that video. If that person has opted in for ads, that YouTuber or that whoever, YouTube makes money off that, but also the person who uploaded it, that random stranger, can make money off that, and you can make nothing if you have not signed up for that program. However, the program is completely ridiculous because it forces you into this contract that Maria has railed against that is completely unfair. And, Google has the power to just sequester this information. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it.
Well, Matt, I wanted to ask you a question. Has any artist that you know of been successful in chasing that money and getting it from YouTube?
Yes, there are, but it's such a minuscule amount of money for the average, artist.
It's more principle than actually the bread.
It's principle, but it's also like, basically what happened was after the Digital Millennium Copyright Act was signed, I don't really, this is not, but anyway, go to the musicworkersalliance.org, read the petition, and sign the petition and share it as widely as you can. They're on Instagram as Music Workers, or maybe Music Workers Alliance on Instagram, and on Twitter, Music Workers. It's just a very worthy cause. And even if we don't get 1% of that ad revenue, at least we'll have started a conversation, and maybe we can bring some of these people to the table. The companies, unfortunately, the major record labels have already bought in with YouTube. They're fully in, know, and so they control the conversation because the public sees them as the music industry. They don't see us as the music industry. We are peons to them. We're nothing. We don't, we're not Rihanna. We're not Lady Gaga. We're not, Dua Lipa. We're not, whatever is hot right now, Travis Scott. We don't represent that. We represent this tiny fraction of the puzzle. But like, we deserve rights too. We deserve, proper compensation for intellectual property. I mean, the movie industry has fought this tooth and nail, and they've been successful. But we need a lobby that works for us, works for musicians, works for creators, works for producers. It's just not there.
Because right now, literally, it's fractions of a penny, to answer your question, Mark. I mean, literally, it's 0.0 and about 3 or 4 zeros before you get
Right.
to, it's fractions of a penny. So the way we did the math once, you would have to have 1 million streams, for example, on Spotify to get $2,000. And most jazz musicians are really feeling like they're on top of the world if they get 50,000 streams. So they're so far away from even getting that penny that it's just not worth having that conversation. We have to, and I like the idea of the Music Workers Alliance. I'm going to look into that and try to help as any way I can, because it's really, like you said, we're the content creators and the only ones not benefiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to dig into that more another time also, because that, I feel like the questions I want to ask have answers that are probably a half hour long, like specifically about because there are monetization options for artists, but they suck. Like I've not monetized any of my YouTube videos, and my channel has multiple millions of views on it, but it's not worth it for me to monetize it in the first place, because like I'll barely make any money for that, and it'll squish my audience if I do. But I want to get into the math and the nitty gritty of it, and I want to do that another time, Matt. So maybe you and I can like have another conversation on this live stream at some point, specifically about that bill and about how we should come together as a music industry to focus on that. But could you just say again what the initiative is, so people know about it and know where to look it up?
Me again?
Yeah, Matt. Just what's
musicworkersalliance.org.
Music
It has all the information there. There's a petition to sign. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Great. Thank you. I want to dive a little bit more into the conversation of what we can do live streaming to actually monetize it. Now we're saying that paywalls are necessary, and we have to figure out a culture collectively as an artist community of what we can of making it scarce, right? And you guys are PR professionals, so I want to dig into how we can use PR to do that exactly. And at the same time, before we have that conversation, I want to bring somebody in. Her name is Jess Abran. I hope I'm saying that right, but she has a company, or she's from a company called Ulily that has a unique model of helping artists to monetize live streams. I told her I'd give her a couple minutes on this, and then we can ask her questions. And don't be timid. You can ask tough questions. And I'm going to admit her into this chat right now.
Okay.
So there we go. It's connecting Jess's audio there. Hey, what's
Hi.
up, Jess?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. So happy to have you on here. It's so great to meet you. We've never actually spoken on the
I
phone or in
know.
person before, just a little bit in email. But
Yeah,
I want to.
I'm coming in fresh.
Yes. Jess is an artist and an executive at this company, Ulily, which is as I know it, one of the if not the premier sort of Kickstarter for Europe. It's a crowdfunding platform, and they're getting into the US now, and they have a new technology that they've curated specifically for artists that I found really interesting when they approached me, actually unsolicited, which is how I found out about it, which is also interesting to have a company doing that, because you don't often see it. So Jess, would you just tell us a tiny bit about the company, and then we're gonna ask you some questions?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny how they happen to curate me as well, which is why I decided to kind of jump in with both feet and decide to work with them. Because, and I want to apologize in advance. There's construction going on in the apartment above me. So
Nice.
I really hope that doesn't bleed through. But Ulily is essentially a crowdfunding company comparable to Kickstarter on steroids. It's really a really dope crowdfunding company to help creatives, young entrepreneurs, artists get their projects funded. And the way that they do that is in a very unique way. Kickstarter and GoFundMe, great ways to crowdsource and get your projects funded. But what they lack is the human touch which is what I personally loved about Ulule. Not most of these platforms have a very, very low success rate. Kickstarter sitting in at around 34% of successfully funded projects, whereas Ulule is sitting in at 76%. So most of our projects get funded, and that is specifically due to the very hands-on coaching you get as soon as you're onboarded onto the platform. It is within our best interest to make sure that your project gets funded. That's where we get our 5%. So as soon as you're onboarded, you are contacted by several success coaches, which is, I believe, who's kind of contacted you, Greg. And we make sure that your campaign page is absolutely foolproof and looking, fantastic, so that it's eye-catching, so that you don't get lost along the way. There's literally video tutorials of my mug all over the website, making sure that, your project is being done correctly, bringing you through the steps of like your reward system, what your page should look like, how long your video should be, where you should be seated in the video, really just to make sure that your campaign page is looking fly as hell. And then after your campaign page is done, that's where crowdfunding companies usually find a huge drop off, is that people get overwhelmed. People don't know how to go about asking for funds, really, because most people are just starting out. Most people are creatives, artists, musicians. And me being one of those people, I hate asking people and family for money. And so Ulule provides you with creative ways to market yourself, creative ways to go about getting that first round of at least 5 to 10 initial backers that you need to kind of get yourself kickstarted.
So I'm excited about that. That's cool, and sounds like you have some legs up on Kickstarter. But the thing that I'm really interested in is this new technology that you're bringing to the U.S. That, I mean, it's not really a new technology, but it's a new idea and a use of it, and where you have to you create a live stream and you make a paywall, and then you have to have people keep paying in order for the live stream to continue.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that?
So that's what. Yeah, totally. So because of these times in the pandemic, Ulule noticed that a lot of musicians are doing these live concerts now. And that's great, because I keep being super impressed and inspired by how we're quickly adapting to our environment and to how things are changing. Musicians can't congregate and play shows anymore. Your pub isn't open like it used to be. So people are playing live concerts online. And what Ulule has been doing since the beginning of time is we're really good at bringing the crowd to you. And so we decided to kind of bring our community together to do these. Our initiative is called Please Don't Stop the Music. And it's kind of like a live virtual tour we're doing internationally for musicians. And so essentially we take our same software, our same crowdfunding page, and we've completely turned it around. Instead of making it a project campaign page, it's now your music page, just as kind of like how artists have their Spotify set up, their Bandcamp page set up. It's generally the same idea. And instead of having your rewards, it's essentially musicians have to gather about $150 worth of donations from the crowd, their audience, their fans, to unlock 30 minutes of playtime. And so that is what Ulule is doing right now. And then once you unlock 30 minutes of playtime, you're live. You get to play live on your Instagram, and Ulule then shares that across their entire community. And the more donations you get, the more playtime you unlock. And I think it's really awesome. Not only is this great for musicians to kind of get money for themselves during these times, but you also have an option to donate that money to a select handful of charities that we have as well.
Nice. That was what intrigued me about it, and I'll probably do one of those live streams for one of the charities that I'm trying to support right now that's supporting healthcare workers. It seems like it's a potential and obviously it's brand new. I think all the ideas now are kind of half baked, and that is like it at the very least in the direction of where we want to be going, and it's something people can utilize right now, which is why I wanted to bring you on the show to tell people about it. That my question that I want to open it up to the panel to discuss and also to you to discuss is, so that you put up a paywall. I think it's $3, right? That people have to pay in to beginning. That's the minimum.
So I believe it's I believe it's $3. But the way that it works, it's $5 per 1 minute of playtime.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, you gig around. You know what it's like. Usually, it's $5 to $10 at the door anyway. Cover charge. So.
Total $5 per 1 minute of playtime that the crowd funds together. So if you're going 30 minutes and you get $5 more of funding from the crowd who's watching it, it'll go to 31 minutes, and then 5 more 32 minutes.
Exactly.
Okay. So I found that really cool. The thing that I found not cool is the idea of having to push it out and get people to sign up beforehand, because I was like, how am I really going to do that? I mean, for me, who's my live streaming is not scarce. I'm doing it every morning for an hour. So like maybe I do a concert or something that I promote separately. But then there's the PR aspect of it, which is why I think it's important that we have this panel here. And so I'm curious. Maybe first let's hear from the panel, but then I also want to hear from you of like how is it Ulele or Ulule?
You spell it, yeah.
Yeah, Ulule.
Ulule.
So it's Ulule. It's initially French, so really it's Ulule. But
okay, that's why.
People have a lot of trouble. There's no right or wrong way to say
and
it.
And it's .com, right? Because I'm putting the link.
Yeah.
People were asking what the link is. Yeah. All right. So, what do you guys think of this model as far as PR people? And then is this something that like, does it make sense in our and how do we actually get people to come to something like this if we do structure something like this?
Sounds like it makes sense to me. I mean, it sounds like a great idea to make sure that the money's coming in. How do we get people to come to this the same way we get people to come to gigs in a certain way? Hopefully you have a core audience already developed. You might have email addresses and so forth, all social media followers on all different streams, and I think you put it out there. You also can put it out there to the media. A lot of places are listing all the live streams that they can, so send it out to all the media places that are doing that. A lot of places, because there are no live concerts in real, that we can actually go to physically. There, a lot of places are trying to help the artists.
Yeah, but are people going to pay $3 if they're going down a list of what a radio station's like live broadcast that they're promoting, and there are 100 free ones?
Yeah, I don't know. That's tricky, but so maybe it's better just to promote directly to your audiences too. But I think it's good to have it listed.
I want to add, Greg. I mean, and I think this platform makes perfect sense. It's a great idea, but these things aren't necessarily like related directly to PR. Like, I'm not sure if, I don't speak for Matt or Anne, but I don't know if like PR people are the best people to give like this type of feedback on something like this, because it's kind of like a different thing than what we actually do day to day. But from the way that it's being described, it sounds like a great platform. I think that, we need more and more of these types of things. And I hope that it's, a successful platform that our artists, like I'd love to have my artists be part of it. And to your point about how do we convince people to, to get there, to watch it and all that. A lot of this is direct, kind of like direct to audience type of from artists themselves. The artists that I've been working with on live streams, and you mentioned early on in the conversation the Live from Our Living Rooms festival that we did promotion for. That was so successful because all the artists that were involved in that have really fully engaged fan bases. So we don't have to convince someone to tune in to watch Chikuria do an hour set. Like, everyone's going to be there no matter what. So obviously not all of these artists have those types of engagement and that sort of audience, but it really comes down to the artist, kind of picking up the slack of self-promoting and and engaging with their audience, and interacting, and doing all of that. Because as publicists, at least from what I'm doing, as Anne mentioned, we're trying to get it onto all the listings and the directories that are now including live streaming events. Thank goodness, and I'm really glad they're doing that. But that only goes so far, because getting it on NPR's list of live streams of the week is not going to make or break whether a live stream is successful. It comes down to the artists really doing their own outreach and engagement.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Lydia. That's always been the case in a way. Is we help broadcast things, but artists always need to be thinking about how to connect with their audiences directly as well. And I had something in mind, but it just slipped.
Is that the main thing? Like the artists connecting with their audiences in a genuine way, or as PR professionals, your guidance to what artists should be doing in how they're connecting with their fan base. I hear people say be you and go out and talk to your fans and stuff, which I do, and I think everybody's capable of that to some degree. But there's just so many people doing that now to so many potential audience members. Like, how do you break through the noise of that?
Well, I think one thing that is really important to bring up here is digital media marketing, or social media marketing. So people need to be using Facebook ad platform, Business Manager. Facebook Business Manager is a very specific tool that can get icky and technical, but everyone should be using it. You go to business.facebook.com. You have to go there and you have to set it up. It's different from boosting posts. Boosting posts is the lowest form of Neanderthal Facebook advertising. Don't mean to be. This is what my social media consultant, whose name is Sydney Hill, who's wonderful, who works for my clients on a freelance basis, tells me and the clients. Boosting posts is spreading it out to literally everyone. But when you work with Facebook Business Manager, you're really targeting specific demographics like income, geography, where you specifically are, what your interests are. You can also do this thing where you upload your email list to Facebook. If you're an artist, you can upload your email list to Facebook and essentially push an ad out to anyone who's on that email list whose email lines up with their Facebook profile. So you can direct market to people in a very sophisticated way. Now, that does pose privacy concerns, of course, about you having people's emails and then linking that to their, but they can just say, I don't like this ad, I don't want to see this, or they can opt out of most advertising. A lot of people, have done that. Actually, that's not totally true. Anyway, one of the core things that you can do is that social media marketing thing, and that's something that Lydia's company works on and my company works on, and you can get help from other professionals in the space and even outside the space. Going outside the jazz world sometimes yields very interesting results. Maybe the people don't know the scene, but you could find someone if you have the means, and it's something worth promoting. Someone who Anne has worked with, named Chad Lefkowitz Brown, mostly does his own self-promotion on his Instagram and YouTube, and he's using tools that are used by mass marketers, and really going outside the box. And he's built a lessons business that's unprecedentedly successful,
Right.
So anyway.
Well, lessons are something that, there's I know Bob Reynolds, who's here in LA, is someone I know of who's been very successful in that, and even before this, and that he's built a sort of online university of just him as the only professor. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. Also, Bob is really good at emailing. He's his emails are so concise and on point and not floral and picturesque and all that. It's just the text and a couple pictures, and it's very simple. I really applaud his approach to marketing.
So are you, as what you're saying is that artists need to also just learn how to be online marketers for themselves now?
Yeah, especially now. They have no time to do anything else.
Always had to do this though. This is the thing, my wrap on this entire brand is that we were all going toward this whole situation.
Say that again, Lydia, you're kind of soft, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My whole wrap on this whole thing from the beginning is that the world was going toward this type of situation anyway. Like, we were going online, we were becoming digital. I mean, we're moving toward this. Jazz is always kind of like, tends to be a little bit slower in the, on catching on to these things, but we were going in this direction. So this unfortunate catastrophe that we are all in has just forced us to be confronted with it just, fast and immediately.
Absolutely.
But the truth is that musicians have always had to be their own digital marketers. I mean, they've always had to be active on social media. I mean, since the beginning of Instagram and Facebook and all of this, they've always had to do this. So now it's just about or die. You either do it or you don't. And if you don't do it, you're really going to be left behind at this point. So I think that in general, finding the tools like Facebook advertising and all of these types of tools are essential, in addition to thinking creatively and innovatively about how you're going to go about attracting an audience. And then the last thing, one client that I've been working with for a long time is the Baylor Project. And, Gail and I worked closely with them for quite some time, and we still work together. And they, since the beginning, have been engaging their audiences. They've been live streaming their breakfast. I mean, this type of stuff sounds at the time, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, like, do people really want to watch us, I don't know, make an omelet? But yeah, like, some people really do want to see that. And it led to 2 Grammy nominations for them, and they're unsigned. So this is the type of engagement that counts. And as our people, of course, it's our job to amplify those voices and to amplify those types of things and make sure they get to the right people, and maybe they'll get write-ups and whatever they are going to get. But it really comes down to the artist doing all this and finding their niche, and it does take time. If you haven't been doing it before this, like, you have to really take time, because it doesn't happen overnight. Developing an audience takes years. Right. And, now we're just faced with the situation where this is what everyone has to do. So,
right. What is the website again for Ulele? I looked, ULE. ULE.com, because I went to that. It was a restaurant.
No, there should be only one, ulule.com. You'll see it's the logo is like a little animated owl, like a little owl emoji type of thing.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what Lydia was saying about the Baylor Project. They used their time really wisely. They kind of came up with a song trying to encourage people to stay inside during this pandemic called Sit On Down. And they challenged other musicians to put their own version of Sit On Down. And then somebody even created a dance to go with the song. And after they did all that, they actually recorded it, and now they're selling it as a single, which is really like a great idea.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
You got to watch it from the very beginning to being able to buy it as a single, and now they're still promoting it. It's just a great idea called Sit On Down. You all should check it out.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about a creative idea.
It's being done well. Like, the Baylor Project is I think that, artists should take time to watch other artists that are successful. Matt mentioned Chad, who is a great example of this. Grace Kelly is another one. I mean, I think it's important to kind of just observe and treat it as like an experiment of how they started and how they got to where they are now. Right. Because the Baylors are a really good example of someone, I mean, they mastered this from before they had to. So. Right. I think that that's sort of the way to approach these things, is to kind of see what they're doing. And you obviously want to be true to yourself and genuine, so you're not going to copy what another artist does, but to let it inform and inspire you as an artist to see how you can do a similar type of thing.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 questions here, and I know it's 9:01 right now, so I promised you guys I would end at 9, but if you have to go, you can go. Just say, hey, everybody, love you, bye, and then you can exit the the room here. But if you do have more time to stay to answer these, the first is, when artists are, sort of a 2-layer question, and this is something I've dealt with as an artist. So recording your breakfast, right? It's gonna look like shit. No matter how you do it, like, unless you have a set and makeup and lighting, you're gonna look terrible. Your breakfast is not gonna look as tasty as it actually is. Does that matter at all? And does curating yourself and figuring out your brand matter to getting people to become fans of yours in the first place?
I don't think high production quality is even a thing anymore, which is why like stripped down documentary series and all of that is huge, and reality TV's blown up because high production stuff, really glammy, glitzy, over the top productions are not what people want to see anymore. People want like the real deal. So people want to see you looking like shit in the morning making an omelet, you know?
Behind the scenes, yeah.
I mean, yes, and
Yeah.
I actually tend to, I mean, I agree with that to a point, but I also do think that things need to look good.
Yeah.
If my clients give me a video and it's filmed on an iPhone and they're like, can you pitch this to someone to cover it? I'm going to be like, you need to reshoot that. I mean, so I do understand what you're saying. And
To an extent.
yeah,
Right, exactly.
and I agree with that. And I think that especially now we're all in the same boat. I mean, everyone here is in their living room. Everyone watching is in their living room. Like we're all in the same situation. But I do think though, if we are artists or if we are representing artists, they are the artist. I mean, they are the brand. I mean, they are in the end, it's a product. Like, and it has to look a certain way, and it does have to an aesthetic if they have one. And if their aesthetic is sitting, in a hoodie in a corner eating, an ice cream alone, that's cool. That's their
mine.
aesthetic. Because that's mine when I'm doing that. But we shouldn't just say like fuck all and just not no one gives a shit. We're all in quarantine. We are.
No, I mean,
We also have to make an attempt to make it look.
Yeah, strategy and effort still needs to definitely be there.
right. And some people are more about presentation than others, and depending on the audience you're trying to reach, some people want to have people looking glamorous because that'll take them out of their daily life. So I think there's room for all different types of artists there's room for all different types of presentations.
Well, it's a lot easier to look unkempt than it is to look good. I mean, at least for me, that's my natural state of being, and so
Right.
But I wonder what the cause and effect pattern is here, because I see people who are at the top of, like, for example, Thundercat. He was him, and he didn't care that much about his aesthetic, it seemed, for a long time, and he got big. But then as soon as he got really big, he starts each photo is impeccably taken, because obviously there's money to put into the production value of things. Like for artists at 99.9% of the artists at their current level, they can't have that type of production. And I wonder, so it's sort of a never-ending battle of how much time do we spend trying to emulate that like high-end level of production, even if we're trying to be genuine, but so that things will look that good, or does it really just not matter at all? And I guess what you guys are saying is maybe it matters like 50% or something like that.
I think it matters depending on who your audience is too. Maybe your audience might love hoodies and everything, which is awesome. You look great, but somebody else might appeal to a different demographic. So I mean, obviously you want to appeal to as many people as you can, but I think it depends. What do you do in your live gigs? Do you want to emulate that? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I think different people perform in different ways too, in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, am I gonna want to go and wear my hoodie to my live show? Probably not. I should probably think about that.
Brooks Brothers tune on for the live streams.
I didn't.
Mark, you want to say something about radio real quick?
Well, it's kind of like just what we've been doing for our artists is kind of just the traditional stuff, is getting radio stations to do a lot of interviews with our artists, because everyone has downtime. We're working with Kat Edmondson quite a bit, who's doing a weekly, the Kat Edmondson Variety Hour, which is on Sundays, and getting radio stations to, carry this on their Instagram page or their Facebook page, and just trying to keep our artists busy right now.
Right.
We're not doing the PR outreach like, Ann, Lydia, and Matt is, but it's basically right now just keeping them busy and trying to get them as much exposure as we can. And we're still just doing our job, is trying to get radio airplay and have some sense of normalcy. Because,
right.
Yeah.
Mental health is a big thing right now. People are freaking out. So we're trying to that's why, when they're performing, I know we want to monetize it for their own good long term, but I think just people need that for the expression to keep
You need the outlet.
singing
Well,
right now. Yeah.
Yoko Miwa, who's doing, she played every Friday and Saturday. She's a Boston-based, really internationally acclaimed, but Boston-based artist. She played every Friday and Saturday night in clubs in Boston forever. And all of a sudden, she's stuck at home and she's not performing. So she decided, I actually wrote to them because somebody was doing an article on live streaming. I said, hey, are you planning on doing any live performances? And she'd been a little hesitant because her piano at home is not of the quality that she, as where she normally performs in the clubs, but it's still a good piano. So she decided to do it. And I think just to feel good, she is connecting, she's staying in touch with her audience as she gets dressed up, because she's one who does like to get dressed up, and it makes her feel more like, in terms of just how you feel during the pandemic, it makes her feel good to be herself to artists. And they're loving it. And they started asking her, how can we give you money? And she's now raising some money both for herself and for Jazz Foundation. I think Jazz Foundation of America, someplace like that, that's doing great work. So anyway, I think for some artists, I mean, like Gail said, you want to put yourself, people want to be performing, and this is what you do. The question is, how do you do it? And are you going to, you can do it in so many different ways, but if you feel like you have to be performing, please do it. And if you monetize it, all the better. If for yourself, if you don't need the money because you have a really solid teaching gig, then give the money away. Raise money for another cause. There's so many.
I have a client who's doing a great live stream series called it's called Quarantino / Lock and Feifke. It's Alexa Tarantino, the alto saxophonist, and Stephen Feifke, the pianist.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a $5 buy-in on Sunday nights, 8 p.m. every night, and they are doing well, and they're able to donate $250 to $400 from every live stream to the Jazz Foundation of America.
That's awesome.
They do it every Sunday or every night?
Every Sunday at 8 p.m.
Oh, okay.
And it's on Crowdcast. But if you go to their Crowdcast, in my opinion, is the best platform for this live streaming with the pay option. And it also directly integrates with Patreon, which we haven't talked about yet. But Patreon and Crowdcast have a built-in partnership where if you want to live stream something like a Q&A, let's say the drummer Dan Tepfer has a great drum-based instructional Patreon that existed long before the pandemic, and makes him a certain amount of extra cash every month because he's constantly posting stuff, but he can do a live Q&A with his fans as a part of their subscription through Crowdcast. And I know that Alexa and Stephen are looking into that platform as well. I just want to plug one other Patreon that's really, really great, that applies to all this stuff that we're talking about right now. There's this journalist named Sherry Hu, Cherie, and the last name is Hu. And her Patreon is, I think, called Water and Music. Water and Music is creating insights on the fine print of innovation in the music business. I'll
put that in the chat.
Yeah, so she has essays and databases and startups and streaming and all these different categories. It's really incredible. She's a great writer, and she's like, it's incredible what she's doing. She compiled this guide to live streaming that was posted broadly on the internet. If you Google her name, she's been interviewed multiple places, but she wrote a guide to live streaming in the pandemic era. So I would urge everyone, we haven't talked about Twitch. Twitch is another great service.
Yep.
That you can actually subscribe to. So I would highly recommend checking out Crowdcast, checking out Patreon, checking out Twitch, checking out, others.
An interesting thing to talk about too would be how the venues are going to be involved with this, because I've heard with Smalls what they're doing. I heard that Scullers may be doing something. I know Warren Wolf played at Andai Music in Baltimore. Not played at, but they carried the stream. So it's going to be interesting to see how the venues start getting involved with this and trying to continue to promote music.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
that article I mentioned on London Jazz News talks about that in terms of working with one particular venue, but how artists can work with venues in different cities so that they're still pulling in the audiences from those cities, and as if they were doing a live gig. I have a question for everyone here. Yeah, obviously people are stuck in their apartments, and we were talking about different instruments. Different people have more ability. Like, let's say you're a drummer. Does somebody want to? I personally love solo drums, so I could listen to it all day. But I wonder if it's easier for some musicians to do this than others. I'm just curious what everybody thinks about that. Some instrumentalists to do this than others.
It definitely is, because guitarists and pianists,
right.
I mean, it definitely, they have the ability to do a solo concert, and people will tune into that. Like, for example, again, just to reference, because we just did this festival, Bill Frisell was one of the people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could watch Bill Frisell play, the phone book, and people would do it.
Exactly.
But a guitar player can do that. Now,
right.
Now, is my dad going to do like solo soprano saxophone for an hour? Like, I mean, no offense, but like, I don't know how that's going to go, how that's going to be.
They have
exactly. Bands and groups can't get together anymore because of social distancing. And then if, a big jazz group or a large band is going to get together and be like, stay home and stay safe, folks, it kind of defeats the purpose if the whole band is congregating together.
Right. Well, I wonder, should we be talking just about now or about how it might look when things start to open up, and maybe bands can get together at clubs with 6 feet apart somehow, but no audiences. We could keep using these platforms afterward. Maybe, I can see a time. I still have a lot of hope. I think we all need to be doing the live streaming even afterward, but I still have a lot of hope that in the long run, once there's a vaccine, everybody can go back. Hopefully the clubs will still be there. The clubs that we know and presenters will still be there. But I think, some will survive this okay, and some won't. But
are you all from the same place? Sorry, are you all from the same area? Oh, okay.
No, I'm from I live in the Boston area. Matt lives outside New York. Lydia's New York City. Mark is I'm sorry, Mark, you just said this. Portland
area, yeah.
Oh, wow. Very cool, guys. I'm out of Montreal.
Oh, cool. One of my favorite cities.
An international
crowd. But I come
here.
to every year usually for the Montreal Jazz Festival. But
yeah.
Postponed.
I know, believe me, because I work with them. Exactly. It's sad.
Hey guys, so I want to bring in somebody who actually just chimed in so we can hear a little bit of an artist perspective. I had invited Micaiah McCraven to join us if he wanted to, and he just pinged into the room, so I'm going to admit him here, and
cool.
And we can hear what his thoughts are on this. Micaiah's been staying at home with his family, and he has not been doing any live streaming at all, I think.
Interesting.
I'll be interested to hear about if he's planning on it and what his perspective is on that. So it should be pulling up now. Micaiah, you there?
I'm here.
I see you. Yo, Micaiah.
How y'all doing?
Micaiah McCraven, everybody. Drummer.
I just wanted to say, well, on the comment, it is a little difficult, maybe to do a solo drum performance. Or maybe less desirable, because I'd like to play with some other people.
Sure. The whole idea of improvising with other people is that.
Yeah. And, I've been just in general, just to add to the conversation, not that interested in doing like the live streaming or replacing the live performance with like something in my bedroom.
Right.
But it does seem like an interesting opportunity maybe for some revitalization of the recording industry.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been suffering and like for the longest time, everybody's been telling me that you can't make a living off of records, and the only way you can make money is by performing, though that was different at a different age. And so kind of my question to everybody is like, what's the thought? Why is it have to be the model that like we can't make money making records and selling records? Is there a new possibility there? Or
We have to convince people that the records are worth buying, and that's a big
Right.
general like cultural shift that has to go back to the way it was before, you know, music was free on the internet.
Right. Well, Maria Schneider's been able to do that through working with Artist Share and getting people to support her projects. And she puts out the most beautiful, beautiful projects, almost the opposite of what's going on now in terms of bucking the trend. And she manages.
Of course, Maria Schneider
She's got
started.
a name. She's got a
She
huge.
started building that in the 90s when
Oh, of
this
course.
was, yeah.
That
And
was
she's
great.
got one of the most massive email lists that I know of, that I've heard, you know. So
She's amazing, and so she's not every artist, but it is possible. But it's, I don't know. The
I
recording
think we
industry
don't
is-
want to go back to trying to get people to buy CDs or
Right,
records or 45s or 78s or long playing. We don't want to do that. We want to figure out how to get involved in the monetization of streaming as
That's right. That's right.
There's lots of money still out here. We're just not getting it.
That's
And
right.
I think that's where the conversation needs to be. If everybody is streaming, I don't want to start saying we need to sell CDs.
No.
That's how we make money streaming.
Right.
yeah,
0.0001 cents for every stream, but labels are getting more who own the masters. Then we need to figure that out. We need to try to get people. And I think one of the things that Matt talked about earlier was that 1% from YouTube or something like that. I mean, if you make
Right.
enough noise, maybe
That's right.
there's a way to get some of the money that's already out here, because the streaming income went up, as I said earlier, 13%
Oh, yeah.
in the first quarter of 2020, and 2 months of that was part of a lockdown. But the industry made more money. Now the artists didn't, and that's where the conversation needs to go. How do we get? I don't want them to cut it out. I want them to cut us in. You know,
That's right. That's right. Good point.
There's been discussion of some sort of unionization of artists to create. Well, let me take a step back from that idea actually, and just bring up the question of why do people feel compelled to go on Spotify? What are the reasons, right? It's because the audience is there. Same with YouTube. Like, I will put my record on Spotify because it's more likely that people will listen to it, and then I'll play the Spotify game trying to get it on playlists and everything. The question to Gail's, the question, like, parallel to Gail's initiative there is how do we make a system where people are compelled to go to a place that will have some level of equity in the way that it distributes the funds and allows the artists, the creators, to actually participate in that in a tangible way. It's a general question, and there's no answer. I'm not saying you guys should have an answer to that, but that's the thing that I've been thinking about, and it's possible because artists have unionized in various ways throughout history. The question is, like, can we bring the audience to a platform where it makes sense for us to have that platform?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good points, Greg. I mean, all good points. Like, I mean, this is all part of the discussion. Like, I think that, I don't think any of us have the answers to, magic bullet answers to any of these questions, because this is the Wild West as far as I'm concerned. And it's always been, and now it really is. And we all just have to work creatively to figure out, how to navigate this. And I think that, while we don't all have the answers to how to solve these problems, because if we did, obviously, like, our artists would be in a much different situation, clearly.
Yeah.
But while we don't have the answers, I think that this time that we are made to think about these things, it's really important to have these discussions, to have these talks, and to get our heads together to think about how we can shape this and how we can move forward in the future with all of these things considered. So if there's nothing else that comes from these types of gatherings as far as solutions, at least it is a way to get us to really start thinking creatively about
Pose the
how
right questions.
and that's why I think it's great to have, you have PR people, we have managers like Gail, artists like Kaya, radio people like Mark. I mean, we all need to work together as one unit to figure this out. So hopefully we'll have answers, to your questions soon.
Well, collectively, we're working on it. Everybody's working on it to some degree, and I also want to pose the general statement to anybody listening that I am talking to people who are also working on this problem on the ground level, like Lewis Marks at Rope-a-Dope, and we need tech minds and people who have entrepreneurial ideas of how to actually execute that and want to participate in it. So if you are that person or those people, I'm easy to access, and I want to hear from you, and I'll have you either talk on here, and we can keep this snowball rolling of looking into the future. To speak just very briefly on Micaiah's point that he had mentioned, I have seen artists recording more with each other, which we can produce now. We can't necessarily all live stream together, but we can produce a track and have somebody else layer over it. And people have been doing these videos that are kind of cool, where like they'll make sure that they have the camera set on their keyboard, and I put it here because I do this at my piano, but they have the camera right there, and they record the take that they're doing and make a whole sort of almost live performance videotape. That is one way that recordings are. It's all right, Lydia. That is one way that recordings are taking a different direction, and the question is can we create a culture where the money that people put into consuming those and other things that are being created right now goes back into the pockets of the artists.
Goes to the artists. Well, I hope that this period or any period like this or challenge provides an opportunity, to reimagine the things that were already wrong with the industry or already difficult, already challenging. Now we have an opportunity to look at that and critique it and look at how we have to go forward from here. One thing I don't want to see happen is the quality of work and the quality of art decrease due to what's going on. And I don't think that has to be. And I think there are a lot of ways that we can keep on creating. Now, also, there's this amount of time where we're on full lockdown, but at some point, within reason, we'll be able to gather in small groups to maybe do recording or do sets with musicians who trust each other and broadcast that at a high quality out of a studio or something where we can do things. And so I don't think of it as gloom and doom. I think of taking a bad situation and trying to make lemonade. Which I really like lemonade, and you can put a little bit of soda water in there, and it's the spritzer. You can throw some vodka in there; it's also good.
I saw a production. It was Post Malone doing one of a bunch of Nirvana material.
That was great.
The production was great. There was very little latency. I don't know if they were socially distancing in a large room or if they were in separate locations, but it was very enjoyable, and that's something I think if someone was doing it on that level of jazz, people would pony up the money.
Technology is there.
Yeah, someone I should mention is two people. Michael, the guy in San Diego who works on these latency issues. Michael Dessin, right? Did you say that?
Michael Dessin, that's what I said.
Dessin, yeah, okay. Sorry, my apologies. But Michael and Dan Tepfer wrote a blog, the pianist. I'm sorry, I might have said Dan Tepfer about Patreon earlier. I was talking about Dan Weiss. Anyway, Dan Tepfer, the pianist, wrote about how to do this stuff from short distances in real time. If you go to his Twitter and look at the conversation that he had a couple days ago, he was able to actually do a duo live stream with a bassist who was across Prospect Park from him, and it sounded okay in real time on the internet.
Cool.
What's the name and how do you spell it? I'll put it in the chat here.
Dan Tepfer? Tepfer.
Dan
He's
Tepfer.
a pianist and kind of technology wizard. He programs and he blogs. I think some of this stuff is on his website blog, but if you go to Twitter, and you look at the conversation they were having between him and a couple other people in the last few days, there was talk about like collaboratively playing on the internet in real time. But yeah, Michael Dessen is a pioneer in this, what they call telematic performance.
It's like Mark
Yeah.
Dresser is as well. He's been doing,
Yeah.
they've been doing it for years, actually.
Yeah, totally.
Guys, I'm
So-
sorry. I'm going to have to go. I have a client, Lydia's client also. Benjamin just started her interview with Regina Carter on Instagram, and
Oh,
I've
nice.
got to for that. But thank you for having me. I had a really great time with you all.
Nice meeting you, Gail.
Nice to see you,
Take care,
Gail.
Thank you so much, Gail.
I'll be emailing you later.
Um,
I'm gonna split y'all too. I gotta go play Legos and do some homeschooling.
Awesome.
Yay.
Enjoy.
all right, Makai, give my love to the
Thanks for
fam.
doing this.
I can
Yeah.
head off too.
Peace, y'all. Nice to see
All
y'all.
right,
Take
see
care.
you, see you
Yeah.
later.
Right.
Yeah. On that note, I think that it's probably a good time to wrap up. I want to know if you guys have any other closing thoughts that you want to give to people who are watching this live stream and will watch it online in perpetuity now.
I just want to, yeah, totally. Just hang in there. And, this initiative we're doing, getting artists to play live to bigger, larger communities, this is a new initiative. We just thought that, artists are going to be doing it anyway. Why not try and get them some money? And if not for them, then for some charity, and connect them to different audiences around the world, because that's essentially what we want. We just want our music to be heard and to connect to different people.
Thank you, Jess. Anybody else?
I just appreciate the opportunity to participate and listen to what you guys had to say. There were some great questions and points raised, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks to everyone too. It's nice to see everybody. It's nice to have this conversation and think about all the things we can do to help. And
Well, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate all you guys being on this. This has been an incredible panel of great minds. Anne Braithwaite,
Greg.
Jess Abran, Lydia Liebman, Mark Reaney, Matt Mirowitz, and we just had Makai McCraven and Gail Boyd as well. And so I guess I will bid you guys adieu. And
Alrighty.
talk to
Adieu.
you.
Take care.
thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Yeah.
Greg.
See you guys in
Yeah.
See ya. Bye-bye.
cyberspace.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And now you're back to just me. Haha. That was super fun. Oh man. Now I can actually play a little bit. I usually play on these shows. But today was a very special show with PR professionals from around the world, actually, because we had the Ulule representative here telling us about their live stream software, which I put up in the chat there. If you scroll up, you can see it. It's a crazy time right now for artists. We're all figuring out what to do, and this was a panel helping us to brainstorm of the tools that are available right now and think towards the future of the tools that need to be created. And there's some people working on these tools. If you want to be involved in this brainstorming, either on my live stream or off, please hit me up. I'm easy to find. Send me a message on Facebook. I checked my unfiltered messages so that I can see who all's trying to contact me, so we will get through this together. I think in LA, at least now, it's 4 more weeks of lockdown or something like that, and I don't know what it is for other places. But as we get out of this, it's going to be still a long road until there's a vaccine to coronavirus. So thank you guys very much for joining us and watching this panel. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Oh, and Friday morning, by the way, we also have a panel of touring and booking people. So today was PR. Friday is going to be festivals and touring and booking, including Bryce Rosenblum, the founder of Winter Jazz Fest, and Mike Bindraban, the founder of Good Music Company, who does touring throughout Europe, did touring throughout Europe, and now is looking into the future and seeing what that landscape looks like. So Friday's going to be great. Tomorrow I'll be back here just hanging out with you, playing some piano, if you want to come in here. And with that, I will bid you farewell with another track from the upcoming Chicago Experiment, which is with Mackay McCraven, who you just saw earlier, giving us his thoughts, and Marquise Hill and Daryl Jones, Jeff Parker, Joel Ross is on this track, and some other great cats, Irvin Pierce. So I hope you enjoy this, and I will see you tomorrow morning on Mornings with Greg at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks, guys.